Hello, my name is Noritake Kanzaki. I'm going to talk about the importance of sake in Japanese culture from the perspective of one who has studied folklore for many years. Alcoholic beverages can be enjoyed on their own, of course, but they're usually served with food. A Japanese banquet is the same as a Western dinner party in that respect. However, if you compare the relationship between the foods and drinks served at Japanese banquets with similar social events in China or Western countries, I think you'll find there's a large and rather interesting difference. The Japanese think of sake as an alcoholic beverage that is drunk throughout a meal. But Western visitors who have been invited to a Japanese banquet often come away with the impression that sake is an aperitif. That is to say, a drink that is served before the main dish arrives, usually with a number of hors d'oeuvres. And indeed, in Japan, the hors d'oeuvre course sometimes seems endless. There is some truth in this impression. When people in Japan go for drinks, they usually order a wide variety of appetizers that go well with sake, and it's only after they've finished drinking that they will go on to eat rice. It's this final rice course that the Japanese think of as the meal, or shokuji. In other words, the consuming of sake and appetizers is separate from the meal. This is why people who have already had quite a bit to eat will say things like, "Shall we finish off with the meal?" As far as I know, this is a cultural phenomenon rarely seen outside of Japan. Nowadays, the custom of sitting on the floor, either formally or casually, is fast disappearing, so it's now rare to see a traditional style of Japanese banquet where people sit on the floor in front of low tables. But until only about a half-century ago, Japanese banquets were customarily held in a tatami mat room. It seems the samurai class started this tradition towards the end of the medieval period. During the Edo period, it became widespread among all classes. Banquets at the time typically served food in what is known as honzen-style. There were some regional variations, especially among different Buddhist sects, but typical honzen cuisine consisted of 5 dishes. They were arranged like this, with the chopsticks placed here. This bowl normally contained either rice or soup with rice cakes. This bowl contained a clear soup. In the middle was some kind of raw dish seasoned in vinegar. And over here would be a simmered or boiled dish. It was usually an assortment of vegetables simmered in stock. Then here you'd have a dish of grilled fish. Later on, the grilled fish was sometimes replaced by sashimi, with the grilled fish served on a second tray, so there would be 1 extra dish. At times, 2 extra dishes may be added to the basic 5. In that case, a larger tray is used. However, the basic honzen style consists of 5 dishes on 1 tray. If you take a closer look, you'll notice that this is a very light meal. The rice bowl contains only a small portion of rice, 3 mouthfuls at the most. The idea of the rice or soup with a small rice cake is to line the stomach to prepare for the sake you are about to drink. The bowl of soup also contains very little in terms of solid ingredients. What's important is the flavor. It's seasoned lightly with salt to cleanse your palate so you can better appreciate the sake. The idea is to alternate between drinking soup and sake. Then you have the vinegared dish, the simmered dish, and the grilled dish. The simmered dish didn't contain much sugar. In the Edo period, hardly any sugar was used in cooking. The simmered dish was flavored with pure soy sauce. So you could think of all these as simply accompaniments to drinking sake. People would enjoy their sake while seated in front of this tray of appetizers. And since the tray would not be removed until after the banquet ended, they would be sitting in front of the tray for an hour or two. That's why the tableware became so beautiful. It was so guests could appreciate the designs even after they'd finished eating all the food. These are lacquerware bowls. Moisture enhances the luster and color of lacquerware. Later, porcelain came to be used for the small bowls and dishes containing the rice, the grilled fish, and the vinegared dish. Porcelain was first produced in Japan during the Edo period in Arita, Hizen, now Saga Prefecture. Such elaborate designs and vivid colors are distinctive features of Japanese porcelain tableware. The reason is to allow guests to see through the remnants of their food and continue appreciating the beauty of the tableware that sat on their tray until the end of the banquet. Everything was designed to enhance the enjoyment of sake. The tray was presented with a ceremonial cup called hikisakazuki placed at the bottom left-hand corner of the tray. Nowadays, this custom has become almost obsolete. These cups are usually vermilion in color and are shaped like saucers. The name hikisakazuki comes from the belief that drinking sake from this cup would bring a blessing from the gods. The word hiku means to draw. This custom is commonly referred to as naorai. It means to drink sake that has been offered to the gods. By sharing their sake, we humans can become one with the gods. It's like forming a contract with the gods. When we drink sake that has previously been offered to the gods, it means we are receiving a guarantee that the gods will provide us with their blessing. While offerings of sake to the gods are not usually made at banquets, the practice of drinking sake in these ceremonial hikisakazuki cups symbolizes that we are receiving their blessing. The symbolism of hikisakazuki is now mostly forgotten. Today, the equivalent is the common custom of raising our glasses in a toast at the beginning of a party. This, however, is actually a fairly recent custom in Japan. The practice began in the Meiji era when it was introduced along with beer to the Japanese army. People will usually say a few words before offering a toast. This is something along the lines of wishing for the health and happiness of everyone present. In other words, by giving a toast, we are offering a prayer to the gods. So you see, although we may not be aware of the significance of this, we're still expressing our gratitude to the gods for allowing us to share their favored drink. Sake is produced for and offered to the gods. Only after this are we allowed to share it and receive their blessing. This convention has been preserved in the form of drinking from the ceremonial hikisakazuki cup. Each individual raises their cup to receive the sake. they may choose to drink the sake as soon as it's poured, or to wait until everyone has been served. Raising our glasses in a toast saying "kanpai" is a recent custom. In the older tradition of drinking from a ceremonial hikisakazuki cup, we use the word chohai. This word has a similar meaning to hiku and also indicates that we are giving thanks for receiving a blessing from the gods. Since we are receiving this sake from the gods, we must sit in the formal seiza position. But once this ceremony is over, we can relax and sit comfortably. The ceremonial hikisakazuki cup is replaced with another cup. The hikisakazuki cup is only used once at the beginning of the banquet. Then this cup is replaced with something more casual, and the party begins. From this point, guests feel free to pour for each other. The entertainment also starts from this point. So the ceremonial banquet and the informal party are held in succession, and sake continues to play a major role throughout. This ceremony was called reiko, a word that is no longer in the dictionary, while its opposite, bureiko, doing away with ceremony, remains a common expression. The fact that the ceremony and the informal party are held in succession is what makes Japanese banquets so distinctive. This custom spurred the development of exquisite tableware, and it's also why visitors to Japan often have the impression that banquets here are an endless succession of aperitifs and hors d'oeuvres. It's only after everyone has had enough to drink that the shokuji, or meal, will be served. When banquets were held in tatami mat rooms, a separate tray was prepared consisting of plain or mixed rice, miso soup, and pickles. This was how a typical celebratory banquet would always come to an end. Such banquets were also held outdoors. Japanese people have always made the most of opportunities to drink sake while appreciating the beauty of the changing seasons. The best known of such traditions, one that's still very popular today, is flower viewing. Everyone loves to party under the cherry blossoms in spring. For these parties, the food is packed in tiered boxes. And there are also special sake vessels designed to be carried about. Such parties are not the same as Western picnics. Sake is essential for all Japanese parties, indoors or otherwise. It may not be the focus of the occasion, but it's a very important aspect of any party or banquet. Sake is integral to all Japanese folklore and culture. Cherry blossom viewing today may be considered a leisure activity, but its origins lie in a very old agricultural ritual. Back in the old days, cherry trees were found only in the wild. When the sakura trees in the mountains began to bloom, farmers knew that it was time to start their work in the fields. The cherry blossoms were nature's sign to begin cultivating the paddies, fill them with water, and to plant the young rice seedlings. The cherry trees were the farmer's calendar. Interestingly enough, although rice cultivation is such an important aspect of Japanese culture, there is no one guardian deity of the rice fields. Instead, people would pray to the deity of the mountains to come down and watch over their paddy fields. In other words, they would ask the deity to act as a part-time deity for their crops. They prayed for the mountain god to descend to the paddy fields by holding a ceremony under the cherry trees. By the Edo period, this had evolved into a ceremonial banquet, and today it's simply a time to have fun. We Japanese can hardly wait for the cherry trees to bloom each year so we can wine and dine under their pale pink blossoms. It's in our DNA. I think it's important for us to remember that all this stems from an ancient agricultural ritual involving sake.